Welcome to another episode of Message from Mom, where we're busting the myth that mothers-in-law don't necessarily get along with their daughters-in-law. And ladies, I won't forget to, what'd I say? What'd I say this time? Did I say something wrong?
You said don't necessarily.
Oh, don't. Ooh.
We are busting myths over here.
We're busting. Maybe that's the real truth. Well, I'm a little discombobulated with this podcast, so we're out of our normal environment. We're trying to get down to the brand new studio, so that's part of my problem. Holding my microphone, I'm like walking, talking, and chewing gum at the same time, which I think I still can. But anyway, we'll rewind. I had to rewind a couple of times the last podcast too. So we were busting the myth that mothers-in-law don't necessarily get along with their daughters-in-law, right? Did I say it right this time?
You know what? It's going to work out just fine.
Is it fine?
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's fine.
All right. Thank you. It's been a week. It's been a week. It's been a moment. So, but we do have a very hot topic today that we are going to dive into, and that is OnlyFans, and one particular person in that has been in the news, and that's Lily Phillips. So we're going to tackle this, but I'm going to introduce my co-host first, who happen to be my daughters-in-law that I may or may not get along with, depending on my opener there. So to the right of me is Kelly, and usually she's to the left of me, so that's thrown me off this time too.
We're all just
I know
totally screwed here. Yes, I'm Kelly. I'm married to Beth's oldest son, Alex.
And to the left of me is Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Chelsea, and I'm married to Beth's middle son, Andrew.
There we go. Okay. So ladies, and at least I'm getting things in the sequential order this time. I didn't introduce them our last podcast until like well into halfway through the show.
It's okay.
So, but we're going to raise a glass and a toast because we always do this because we know that you don't have to be a blood relative to love your relative. So cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
And cheers to another
Cheers.
episode of Message from Mom.
Yes.
And my monologue this week, my message from Mom, and I do want to span the generations. And then if you don't know, my daughter-in-law Chelsea is expecting, and we're going to have a baby, or she's going to have a baby girl come May.
Mm-hmm.
She and Andrew, and I'm so excited about that. So this episode really made me think about that. Having girls, you are young women. I'm an older woman. I think about my parents always when I do this monologue. So today we are going to take a look at OnlyFans, which is basically a soft porn site, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty of that. But I am just very mindful of how important it is to be mothers, to be aunts, to be grandmothers, because one thing I know, it's just so important parenting is one of the hardest things that you'll ever do in this life. But we may not do it 100% well all the time, but I think overall, having the goal of raising healthy, whole individuals, human beings. I raise boys. You'll be raising a girl. My parents raised me as a girl, but how important it is to just have very healthy role models out there and to really come along and, as I said, just have healthy, happy girls and boys out there. And it just seems to get a little bit trickier and harder all the time, and especially with social media.
Mm-hmm.
They've really have come along and changed everything. So anyway, let's just get into it, ladies, because as I said, this is a hot topic, and boy, oh boy, can you go down a lot of rabbit holes when it comes to OnlyFans. And as I said, we will touch on this Lily Phillips, who has been in the news, and we will explain why she's been in the news recently. But let's just take a look at OnlyFans, and we do have foundational pieces. We always drop those down below. If you're happening to watch on our YouTube channel, we link those in the description box. So we have several foundational pieces, but as I also mentioned, you can go down many, many rabbit holes with this topic. But we are taking a look at How OnlyFans Changed Sex Workers Forever. And that's a New York Times article by Jacob Bernstein. And that was from 2019. Another one is Teachers Have Been Outed for Moonlighting in Adult Content. Do they have legal recourse? And that is an article from Heather Hollingsworth, 2023, on the AP. Another one is Our 1.4 million women using OnlyFans. Here's what we know. And this is from Newsweek, Jasmine Laws, and that's from 2024. And then how 20-year-old OnlyFans model made 43 million. You heard that right. 43 million while maintaining Christian values. And that is from E! News, and Corinne Heller wrote that. Okay, so those are our foundational pieces. So but let's just kick it off because you perhaps might not be aware of what OnlyFans is or when it started. So ladies, I'm going to kick it off to either one of you. What is OnlyFans and when did it start?
Kelly, do you want to take this one?
Sure. OnlyFans is a platform for people to share content. So much like Instagram or Facebook or any of the other platforms out there where people can post their own content that covers a variety of topics. And I know that OnlyFans originally and still does host content from creators about all things and all subjects. I think the famous part of OnlyFans and probably the majority of the content on there is pornographic in one way or another. So, and I think it probably ranges the gamut between women just kind of dancing around in a bathing suit to people like fully engaging in pornographic things. This I've never actually seen OnlyFans. Honestly, the whole thing makes me very uncomfortable just because I worry, I think more than anything else, just about online content in general. And so this type of thing just kind of makes me feel weird. But it started in 2016.
So it's very young. It's not even 10 years old.
Yeah. And there are people making multi-millions of dollars. And they're young.
Started around the time that maybe TikTok
When did TikTok start?
I believe it was
2016.
Yeah.
Or 2017
that.
maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
So kind of a similar, which a lot of the people that are on OnlyFans also tend to promote their content on TikTok or Instagram to the best that they can. Obviously, they can't just say I'm on OnlyFans, but they'll use abbreviations or they'll say, you know, a different word for what their content is.
Right.
Yeah.
And people get the hint
Right.
of what they're
to steer subscribers over to their
exactly.
channel.
I think that's kind of what you almost have to do in order to
build your following over
build your following over there.
Yeah, I would imagine so. You know, the other thing that I guess makes OnlyFans a little bit different than other platforms like Instagram or maybe even TikTok is that the way that people are making their money is by having like a monthly or weekly subscription to their channel.
Yeah.
So that's that kind of regenerative income that is, you know, consistent month after month. It's not just how many, like on YouTube, where we're just relying on a certain number of views for any particular video.
An ad, then you get ad revenue from that, from how many views that you have. Although you can go to private subscriptions over on YouTube. I mean, there are many people that actually do that. We haven't done that, but I will just mention that in 2016, the first year that OnlyFans was launched, can you guess how much money they made in the first year in 2016?
How much?
$1 billion.
Wow.
Not
$1
shocked.
billion.
I guess they call that a successful business.
Right? Okay. So one of the things I did find interesting outside of the amounts of money that women are making over there, because I don't know, so let me just throw this out, because in any of our foundational pieces, I did not come across one male account over there.
There's male accounts for sure.
Oh, lots.
There's
Are there lots of male? Okay.
There are. In the
Yeah.
New York Times article, How OnlyFans Changed Sex Work Forever, there he does highlight a few men.
Oh,
in
did
that.
he?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's definitely men accounts over there for sure.
There was also an interesting tidbit to that too, and I think we can get into this in more detail later. But for example, there is an Olympic diver. I believe he's a diver.
I feel like
who
I saw
started
that.
an OnlyFans account so that he could pay for his Olympic training. And he's
Oh,
not necessarily doing any. And this is the thing about
Right.
OnlyFans: we can't just blanket it and say it's pornography, because
Mhm.
like a lot of it is just, like him in his cute little swimsuit,
Right.
Yeah.
doing a dive or
Right.
posting his workout or something like that. So
Right.
it's not all,
Mhm.
you know,
It's not all,
pornographic
but
in
It's
the
not
most
all
literal sense of
but
it.
it's
insidious.
used. But I think most people go on it and subscribe to use it for some kind of sexual reason,
Yes.
Mhm.
even though maybe that person is not doing anything that you would consider pornography.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Good,
yeah.
well, good to know. Okay. Well, so thank you for correcting me on the male accounts. I was not aware of that. Do we know what the ratio is, though? I mean, the women have got to heavily outweigh the men.
They do.
Yes. So is it
I
like,
don't know what the ratio
you don't
is.
know what the ratio
I can
is?
kind of spend a minute here while you guys talk and look
Okay.
for it, but it's
Okay.
definitely more women than men that are creators.
That's what I thought. And so, Kelly, you've never gone over to the platform to watch
No.
any of the content. I have not either. I just went and read the foundational pieces that we have. Also, I'm over on YouTube a lot. I was aware of OnlyFans because of many interviews that have occurred
Yeah.
over on YouTube with OnlyFans, former OnlyFanners, and
Well, I think most people
present
today are
OnlyFanners
aware
and
of OnlyFans just because, I mean, it's kind of almost become a little bit of a OnlyFans. I wouldn't say OnlyFans has become a little bit of a joke, but it's become a joke to say to someone, like if someone's struggling or, they need a job, oh, why don't you start an OnlyFans account? I feel
Right.
like that's like a very common
Yes.
joke
It's
to make.
definitely made its
Right.
way into, like, 'cause I think that there are even, I've seen television shows where girls get the idea to like take pictures of their feet.
Yeah. Like feet
Yes.
pictures.
Yeah, and I think
Yes.
there was even a Modern Family episode where the older daughter she alluded to or made some joke about like sending feet picture, like getting
Yeah.
paid for feet pictures or
Uh-huh.
shoe pictures.
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely made its way into the like lexicon of
Right.
like
Modern
common,
culture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. But Kelly, Chelsea, have you watched any of the content over there? Over on
No,
OnlyFans?
no, I haven't watched any of the content on its platform, but there are some OnlyFans creators that I know of that will sometimes like pop up on my For You page when I'm like scrolling on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't post obviously anything that they're posting on OnlyFans. Like they're posting just like their everyday life content,
Right.
but you can tell either, via the comments, people know that they're in OnlyFans because they'll comment that, or they'll allude to it, they'll abbreviate OnlyFans as OF, or instead of saying sex worker, they'll change the wordage a little bit so that TikTok doesn't ban them, because TikTok does have a pretty strict ban on any kind of, they're not going to allow any kind of like porn or even suggestive content or even like nudity on their platform. But yeah, I mean, it is interesting when they come across, because I know one person I'm thinking of in particular, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but she's been on several podcasts, and some of the podcast episodes that she's been on, I've, watched a clip on TikTok, and they'll just flat out ask her like, how much did you start, or how much did you make when you first started doing this? And then they'll be like, how much are you making now? And I mean, she's pulling in probably $500,000 to $600,000 a month, which is wild.
Insane.
I mean,
the amounts of money is absolutely insane.
Like she's like, I have so much money that she doesn't even know what to do with it. And she's probably 25, maybe 26, maybe.
They're typically very young girls, even though we did have a range in one of the articles that it's like from 18 to 45. I don't think there are any 66-year-olds out there. That's how old I am.
But you never know. Everyone has a little,
right? A little time.
Yeah,
I know.
Honestly,
Well, just like you
become a thing.
Just like you brought up, Kelly, the feet pictures. I mean, that still just blows me away. It's like, but it's a really big thing. There are men that are really into feet.
Yeah.
And that is,
The whole
yeah,
thing.
it's a whole thing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Foot
So
fetish.
you could just be over on OnlyFans and just, be posting your latest pedicure, and you perhaps could be raking in quite a lot of money. But I do want to just backtrack, because we were talking about social media, TikTok, Instagram, even probably YouTube Shorts, how these accounts then drive people over to their account.
Mm-hmm.
But in my research, so I thought this was also very interesting. Many of them are recruited. So
Mm-hmm.
there is an active recruiting system for OnlyFans. And so if you have a recruiter that reaches out to you, like on Instagram or TikTok, they like your
Mm-hmm.
swimsuit pictures, or maybe they like maybe you are posting your pedicure. I don't know. But they will reach out and then suggest that you come over and start an OnlyFans account. And if you do that, then they get a cut of your revenue every single month.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely active and ongoing. But also, I was very struck by the fact that most women do go over. They're fairly innocent. I mean, they really are. They
Mm-hmm.
start off very slow, and they do start off with the swimsuit photos and the this and the that.
Mhm.
And then it seems to
Build.
Yeah.
after that.
Well, that's what, so one of the, her name's Olivia Attwood, but she was on, I think, the 3rd season of Love Island UK, and she's got a documentary called Getting Filthy Rich.
Mm-hmm.
And she was recently on Call Her Daddy podcast, with Alex, Cooper.
Mhm.
And basically she talks, so she does an episode in this documentary specifically on OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about that, how it starts off very,
Mm-hmm.
People will say, oh, well, I'll start an OnlyFans account and maybe I'll, post feet pictures, or I'll be walking around my house in a bathing suit, or, it starts off very almost innocent, even though obviously people are taking these videos and sexualizing them however they want to at their own personal home.
Right.
But then it's almost like these girls that do it, it's whoever's following them, whether it be men or women or whoever, they're engaging in conversation with, because it's all about having the conversation back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
They start to want more, and it's like, oh, well, can you send me a picture of this? Or, oh, can you do this? And then if they don't, then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to unsubscribe and I'll go follow this person.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, you kind of have to draw a line.
This is the exact
in the
reason
sand.
why
Yeah.
it makes me feel weird, and why, because like honestly, I have a very libertarian perspective on most things in life, and sex and pornography is definitely one of them. I don't have an issue with people signing up for this type of work or doing this type of thing.
Mhm.
I don't even have an issue with the content that they're creating. The thing that weirds me out the most and scares me is that fact that you may start off in one direction,
Mhm.
and then before you know, you're starting to make money, and to
Mhm.
keep that going, you need to
Mhm.
continually increase either the level of, taking your clothes off or doing things that you may not actually be wanting to do, but that constant drive to like maintain your subscription list or to maintain your
Yeah.
monthly income starts to overtake your better judgment, and before you know it, you're doing things that you never thought you would want to do in a
Mm-hmm.
public way,
Mm-hmm.
on a social media platform. And then I just
Mm-hmm.
trying to undo that in today's era of everything living
Well, you
forever
can't.
online is
Mhm.
impossible.
You can't. And that's exactly. So this Olivia Attwood lady that did this documentary, she wanted to immerse herself in, because she did an episode on OnlyFans, an episode on Call Girls, and then an episode on Pornhub.
Mhm.
And she wanted to immerse herself in the experience as much as possible. But with that being said, like, she was like, I'm not taking photos, or I'm not doing, X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
Oh, a little kitchen sound. But she wanted to immerse herself as much as possible. But the reason she said she didn't want to do that is because she's like, I am fully aware that these photos are going to live on the internet forever.
Yeah.
And she even said, to Alex, she was like, have I taken a nude picture and sent it to an ex-boyfriend before? Sure. Maybe they've used it against me or posted it, against me, but that I don't know of. But
Mhm.
I'm not going to actively just post this and then have it live on, online. And I think that's where some of these girls that get on it, they're so young that maybe they don't really think of the long-term effects of what that could do to them.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I was reading something. There was an OnlyFans creator who had made millions, multi-millions, and she was retiring at the tender age of 32 from OnlyFans. And it's like, great, you can retire from OnlyFans and not do that work anymore and have made your lifelong, amount of money you need. But the content you created isn't retiring with you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
That's
It's
right.
going to be there.
And one
even
day,
if you shut down your account.
yeah,
So
even if you exactly. And one day you might get married, you might have children, you might have to do, if you're retiring with that much money, you probably are not going to segue into any other career, but who knows? Maybe, maybe you're going to be bored at 35, or maybe you'll be like so many celebrities that we see that are a flash in the pan and make a lot of money and then blow it all. And then, and then they're, down and out. I don't know, but the content does live on, and you will have in my mind, I think there will be a day of reckoning.
Yeah.
Which maybe, I'm kind of like you, Kelly, if someone wants to do this, like, okay, do it. Like, it's your body and it's your choice to make the content that you want to make. I'm not going to judge you for that. Right. But, I do think that there is going to come a time where maybe you're like, oh crap, I don't want this out there, which I think maybe brings us into Lily Phillips, who we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. And what could transpire later on in her life.
That's right. Yeah. So we will segue over into that, because Lily Phillips has been in the news recently, and that is because she recently had, and her mother is her business manager, correct?
Her financial advisor.
Okay, so her mother
manages her finances.
Yes, her account. So was she on OnlyFans first?
I believe so. And she's only 24, so she's very young.
She's very young. She's based in the UK. She's based in London. And I have seen her interviewed, and beautiful girl. I mean, a beautiful young girl, as most of the OnlyFans creators, I imagine, are all young and beautiful. But so she has recently come into the news because she slept with, was it 100 or 101 men in one day, in 24 hours?
So she slept with 101 men
101
in
men.
one day. Then I think
one day in 24-hour span.
But that's not even
the worst of it.
No, that's not even a drop. That's not even a drop in the ocean.
Because now she has higher goals, hashtag goals, because in February of 2025, isn't that when she is going to?
It's either January or February, but she basically wants to beat the Guinness Book of World Records, which who even knew?
I know,
there
right?
was a Guinness Book of World Records for the number of men that you sleep with, which I guess is held by a Polish woman now at like 917 men.
917 men. I can't even imagine that. So Lily wants to go for 918. Is that?
No, she wants to do 1,000.
1,000. Okay.
In one day.
In one day. Okay.
Which is wild. But I mean, kind of going back to what we were talking about, how things, this is obviously not very innocent at all, but how things kind of start out really innocent, like, oh, maybe I'm going to go on, I'm going to walk around my house in my bathing suit.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, well, how can I one up this person? And how can I one up this person?
Right.
And that's essentially when people are like, why do you want to do this? And it's like, well, I want to be, want to beat the world record, and I want to,
Right. That's right. And so do we know how much she's charging these men to sleep with her?
She doesn't charge them anything.
Oh, so she's not charging anything.
It's not a prostitution thing.
No, it's not.
Okay, so then how is she making her money off of this? She just wants to be in the record books? Is that what it is?
She's in the media like really heavily now. So she's been on like Candace Owens' podcast, several other people's podcasts, like in the UK. She's teamed up with another girl called Bonnie Blue, who kind of does the same thing. But essentially, to my knowledge, they basically will post out on social media or or whatever platform they post on and say, hey boys, I'm going to be at this hotel on this date. If you want to apply to be a part of this, like send in your application. And this is the craziest part is
they do have an application process. Yes.
Well, they do. But the craziest part is then they'll say, if you're STD tested, you'll go to the top of the line. But if not, that's fine too. Like if you're not tested, like you can still come and
seems like
be a
that
part
would
of
be
it.
like one of my strictest requirements if I were her. Like,
that's right. Let's see the report.
Only STD free people are allowed to apply.
When she did the 101 men, because she's already done that.
Yeah, she's already done that.
And they immediately, there was like, I don't know if she's running like a documentary, like if she's running this, but someone was immediately interviewing her after this, and she broke down and she started crying.
She did.
And then she kind of later on blamed, at first she was like, it was overwhelming because the men wanted like longer time and you know, they couldn't because we had to stick to the schedule. And that's why she said she was crying, and she said it was an overwhelming experience. And then like she kind of laughs about it later on when she does like the interview with Candace Owens, and Candace Owens basically calls her out and she's like, you were literally crying after sleeping with 101 men, and now you think you're going to do 1,000 and that's not going to be overwhelming. And she just kind of like laughs it off. But I don't know.
Well, I also thought it was very interesting because some people are coming along. Oh, well, listen, if you were working a double shift or a triple shift, you would be raw and emotional too. I mean, you know, some people were putting it into that perspective that it was like, it was such a hard work day.
Well, I'm sure it's a hard work day. God.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, some people were asking her, you know, how she felt mentally and then, you know, how she felt physically. And she said, actually, physically, it wasn't too bad. That's actually what she said.
Yeah, she was like,
I do believe that her breakdown was mental. It was,
for sure.
It was a mental breakdown. You just, I mean, I'm sorry. You cannot tell me that sleeping with 101 men in you know, a 24-hour span is not going to affect you emotionally. And so we can you know, continue to talk about Lily, because I do think that that's a very, I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling to me that someone would want to take on this activity and then one up it to now be, you know, be the Guinness World Book of Records. But do you think that OnlyFans, do you think this Lily Phillips, do you think that this is exploitative? Do you think they're being exploited?
I think more so
do you think they're being empowered? Because some women are claiming that they're being empowered because they're making a shitload of money, you know?
Well, like taking more so from the OnlyFans perspective, but Lily Phillips, the thing that weirds me out the most with her is that her mom is her financial advisor. That's what, like, I think if you were to take her mom out of this, I would maybe think, okay, this girl actually really does have this goal to do this and she wants to do this, but something is weird about her mom managing her finances to me. And the fact that she's only 24, that's strange. I mean, I don't think in any mother-daughter, like if I came to my mom and I said, I want to sleep with 1,000 men in a day and I want you to help me do this and manage the finances, my mom would look at me and go, what?
What is wrong with you? Right. And that's what I was bringing up in, you know, in my monologue. You know, I mean, being a parent, being a mother, raising strong girls. I mean, this is just not in my radar screen at all. For you know, for baby June to become a sex worker, you know, or I mean, I'm sorry. And now, and I'll even back it up because I did raise boys. I do think that sex is very important. I think it's a beautiful experience between a man and a woman in private. I mean, I'm not a libertarian at all when it comes to this. I'm very, very traditional. And I do think that, you know, within the confines of a monogamous relationship, marriage, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But I just think it can just get so exploited. And it can also be because, hello, guess who are the subscribers on the OnlyFans page? This is men. I mean, men are involved in this too. They're not perhaps creating the content, although we do know the men are creating content over there as well. but men are the ones that are signing up for this. So what the heck? These are dads, these are sons, these are brothers. I mean, what the heck is going on? And this is when I just kind of, my mind is really just kind of blown, because I do believe that these people are being exploited, and I think they're being exploited in the name of money.
Well, I think the one documentary that I was talking about with Olivia Attwood, she brings up that point, and she's like, in doing all of the episodes, whether it be OnlyFans or Call Girls or the Pornhub one, she's like, you kind of have to take a step back and think to yourself, these, especially with the OnlyFans and the Call Girls, these are people's husbands. These are dads. These are sons.
Yes.
These are people that you live with and are around and are using this content. And she's like, it is a little disturbing to think, why are they using this content?
Right.
And it's just like B, also, then they just go home and it's like normal life.
Well, I mean, I think it helps to sort of consider something like OnlyFans in the current moment. Like, let's go back to the 1970s and the 60s when there were actual physical pornographic theaters.
Yeah.
People would go and have a theater going experience, and it's pornography. So these types of things that we normally consider private things, whether it's sex or, looking at pornography or whatever, there's magazines, you can do that at home.
Right.
But the movie theater experience, it kind of boggles my mind that we were ever at a point in our time as humans where this was like a thing. And it's in recent memory. Like, it only went out of fashion in the early 80s. And that was only because VHS made it so that people didn't have to go to the movie theater to watch porn.
That's right. Right.
That is so weird. That was just go to the movie theater with everyone else and watch porn.
And it
it was kind of sleazy. I mean,
yes, it did.
Okay.
So I will just share this. When Mac and I first moved to Minneapolis in AJ was just 2 when we moved there. So that was in 1986. And where the hotel that they were, it was an acquisition. So where that hotel was in downtown was the X-rated part of town. They were gentrifying that specific area. So that's where like all of those, the X-rated movie theaters were. And it was like, slum city. It was like
Times Square in New York used to be.
Oh my gosh, right? So it wasn't like, like, hey, maybe they sold pop, or I don't know.
Well,
but it was not a great part of town. It was not. I mean, people would be in their raincoats and their.
Like when I say movie going experience, it's not like going to the multiplex, okay? But at the same time, the fact that this was a public thing that people were doing in public,
exactly, because
it is kind of astonishing.
Dollar sign.
Right, well,
it's always been about money. It's always been about money.
I mean, but I think though. And why I'm thinking of, like how we think about something like OnlyFans in our current moment is because we've seen pornography has been around forever.
Yes.
Okay. Prostitution also, it's like the oldest profession, right? So
that's right.
You look at just our like history of this industry, and especially the pornography industry. You see the movie theaters, you have the magazines, and then you have VHS tapes, and then you get the internet. And so being able to access porn on the internet completely changed how men and women interact with pornographic material, right? It's totally democratized also in the sense that people are now starting to be able to create it on their own. You didn't have to go to like a porn studio to become a porn star and that kind of thing.
It's become way more accessible to
it's like OnlyFans. They just need a diva light, or
so
they don't need very much to get up and running.
It's more accessible. It's totally democratized. And so you have to kind of wonder like when you look at the whole grand scheme of like, especially how we exist with our online content, like it 100% makes sense that something like OnlyFans would be the thing that it is now. Because you take something as profitable as pornography and you put it in a way that people can, access it on their computers in the privacy of their home. They can sign up for subscription services in the privacy with their credit card. Like, it's just, it's to a level at which completely makes sense. But also to me, that's the thing that worries me the most about it, is because now because it's democratized, you can have very young people making, a lot of money, trying to continually not only one up themselves, but stay competitive with the other people creating content.
That's right.
And then that's when you start to have the irreversible, mental anguish, damage, whatever, the regrets that people have for the part of them that's existing forever on the internet. I mean, there's just the repercussions, I think, emotionally and maybe physically for young people getting involved in this kind of thing. While I have a libertarian point of view about, you know what, if that's how you want to make your money, that is, you go for it and do your thing. There is something about the underdeveloped part of young people's brains that make decision making for something so fundamental of like,
well,
it scares me, right? And it makes me nervous.
think,
And we're already, well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think too, something that I've seen is that, so with OnlyFans, to my knowledge, when you are a creator and you're creating whatever content it may be, it's more about like the conversations that you're having with the people that are subscribing, right? So they're subscribing for the content, but they're also subscribing almost to talk to you, like as if you are their girlfriend or their significant other.
That's right.
Which, okay, that's fine. Like that's a part of the job. But then I've also heard that it can become almost to the point where it's like, okay, that person, say whoever, so-and-so Sally Sue, 24-year-old, is on OnlyFans. She goes to dinner. She has to get up from her normal life, like her regular dinner, to go to the bathroom because, Jack from Mississippi, who she's never met before in her life, has now texted her 20 times. And on the 20th text, he's like, where are you? Why aren't you responding to me? What are you doing? And to me, that A, would be so stressful. And B, how do you separate those two lives? Because like, what if you are Sally Sue that's on OnlyFans and you're married and you have kids, and then you're having like, not necessarily romantic, but like a sexual conversation on the side with Jack from Mississippi? Like, how does your husband feel about that, or your boyfriend, or whoever you're with? That seems weird to me. I can't imagine that any husband, I mean, I don't know, but like, because there is a lot of money in it, so I don't know. But I just can't imagine that would ultimately, like, maybe at first they'd be fine with it. Like maybe in their head, they're like, oh, there's a lot of money in this. But then 5 years down the line, if they were to actually go in and see the conversations that their wife or their significant other is having, they would, I'm sure, be highly distraught. And mentally, that has to mess up the person that's doing it.
So I think when that's a very interesting point that you bring up. And it makes me think of like back in the old days when they had the 1-900 numbers and you would see the commercials late night on television, or like the ads on the back of, newspapers or whatever. And I always had this, and I think that those phone sex caricatures have been portrayed in movies in ways where like the woman is just like not doing anything sexy at all. She's just like sitting on her couch wearing sweatpants and is just like, oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Like very detached from like what's actually happening, and it's kind of portrayed in a funny kind of way. Like this is a job you can pick up and put down. It's very, you make your own schedule, you make a lot of money. But I think that there's some aspect of that it is, okay, that's kind of doable. I could see that. But now in this heightened age that we live in, of
it's on video now.
Well, not only is it on video now,
So
but just the
in your sweats. I mean, you've got to like look,
but the immediacy of how we absorb our content now has changed that kind of phone sex operator type thing into this person who works for or who creates content for OnlyFans, who is just bombarded at all times of day and night with requests for interaction. Right. And because people have become generally more isolated since we have the internet, and not more, you can isolate yourself very easily. And if you can have sexual encounters virtually with people, it kind of makes the idea of being a very isolated person that much more possible, right? Because you can have your online chats, you can,
Mm-hmm.
have your online sex, you can have, fulfill your life as much as you want to just via online and virtual situations.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that is super unhealthful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I will mention one OnlyFans creator that actually got out of it. She made a total of $14 million before she got out of it. She started like when she was 21, and then I think she was on the platform for like 5 years. But she also described her life. She had moved out to LA,
Mhm.
and she had her whole house set up for filming, but she didn't have a normal life.
Mhm.
She didn't have friends. I mean, so she didn't have to get up from the table
Yeah.
going out to dinner because her entire world revolved around her content and creating content. And she also just brought out how lonely it was, and also being in LA. She's like, nobody is your friend out in LA. I mean, everybody's
Mhm.
just like, I mean, well, sure, they'll be like, oh, let's go do this or let's go do that. But it was a very superficial
Right.
world, and it was a very superficial environment for her. So she was finding herself more and more isolated,
Mhm.
and as I just said, her whole world just revolved around her creating content. And then she actually got out of it. So she used to play video games because, I mean, if you're going to be
Mm.
home, I mean,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. So she would play, like, I think it was Call of Duty. So she met her future husband, playing this video game, and then they had a connection. And she actually, started talking to him,
Mm-hmm.
able to relate to somebody.
Mhm.
And so anyway, as a relationship progressed, and then she did come to, find Christ, and changed her whole life and her whole world because of that. But her depicting what her life looked like was very lonely. And I
Yeah.
can imagine a lot of these women are probably in the same boat. I mean, we can talk about these teachers,
Mm-hmm.
because one of our foundational pieces is about that. I mean,
Yeah.
and they do have, I mean, they're married and have children, and they're still creating content. So, to your point, Chelsea, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine, going out and trying to have a normal life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, we can relate to some degree of being content creators because that's what we do,
Mhm,
right? And there's a
mhm,
certain sense of even just the fashion stuff that we do and
mhm,
lifestyle stuff. There is a sense of it feeling like a 7 day a week,
mhm,
24 hour.
24/7 type job. And
mhm,
then you add into if we were to add into our content creation model a subscription service that would require us to be responsive to our
mhm,
subscribers
mhm,
all the time, that
mhm.
that level of commitment and like
It
being
just wouldn't be
on
possible.
is
No, I
completely
know. Yeah,
frightening to me.
because
Like I can't even
you'd never be
imagine.
able to mentally shut down.
No.
And we don't have, I mean, our content is not mentally taxing in any stretch of the imagination, unless, I mean, if we want to go down the avenue where, people are like railing against us with, our fashion choices, which is completely different than somebody wanting your entire
Your
attention.
attention. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I
Like,
think that's the
the only fan subscribers are, which also then will lead me into something else too, because the statistics are out there. So these men, however old they are spending quite a bit of time on these OnlyFans
And
accounts,
money.
right? And
and
money
money.
too. I
Yeah.
know. I can't even imagine that. But anyway, for the younger generation, so like Gen Z, there are many people out there very concerned about the statistics that they're seeing, and that is dating is just going down the tubes. They don't date
Yeah.
anymore. Gen Z
Yeah.
doesn't date. Gen Z also does not. I mean, when I was a teenager, when I was a young woman dating, all the men wanted to get into my pants. I mean, that's the whole goal. Women say no, and men, men seeing how far they can get. That's been in time in memoriam. But guess what? Another statistic is showing this generation, Gen Z, that's not happening. They
Mhm.
are not going out and looking, for sex or a one night stand or anything of
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
a sexual relationship in the flesh,
Right.
which also then I think it just kind of points back to OnlyFans, because when you are spending that much time and money that way, why would you want to go out in the real world? And, because you're going to face rejection, because that was also the big thing too. Women saying no. I mean, that's rejection,
Right.
for a man.
Yeah, if
Well,
you're a
you don't,
subscriber, you're not going to
you,
get turned away.
you
Really.
don't, there is no rejection in that.
Well, I
So
think
I find that very interesting.
I think too, like a lot of these men that are subscribing to these OnlyFans accounts, whatever they may be, they genuinely, I think some of them genuinely feel like they have a relationship with this
Yes,
person.
they do.
And
I
at the
agree.
end of the day, they don't. The
No,
person is messaging them because they are getting paid to message you.
that's right.
I mean, that's bottom line. Like
That's
this
right.
content
It
creator
is.
would not message you unless you were paying them.
It is a transaction. This is a
Mhm.
transactional environment. And also too, and I will bring this up because so there are many, many legitimate content creators over there, but when money is this big, of course, organized crime is going to be involved. And there are many OnlyFan accounts that are created by organized crime, and they're not real people. I mean, or real in the sense that the people that are subscribing think that it is.
Oh.
These are people that are on organized crimes payroll, and
Mhm.
also I discovered that m- many of these recruiters, when they're out there looking for content creators to come over, they're also stealing photos from from young girls that are just innocently posting their swimsuit photos, and they can have accounts just set up over on OnlyFans, just for photos.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's not even the real deal over
Yeah.
there. So I mean, there's just like so many, rabbit trails that you can go on with this
Yeah.
OnlyFans. It's really kind of mind boggling, but I will just go back to, so do you think that women are being exploited over there, or do you think they're being empowered? Because that's also another word that I've heard so many times from the content creators, the women content creators, because they're like, I'm empowered. I'm in control here. I'm in control of what I want to show. I'm in control of, what I'm charging. But I really truly believe that empowerment is totally linked to the money.
I don't know. I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. I think they can live side by side,
Mm-hmm.
empowerment and
Exploited.
exploitation. Like, and I don't necessarily mean that one person can be experiencing both of those things simultaneously, but I do think that there's a level of OnlyFans that does worry me about exploiting younger women.
Yes.
Like I think whether
Yes.
it's the culture of the OnlyFans, where you need to constantly do more and one up, and to keep your subscription list strong and to build that list.
Right, because we had many of the women that share their journey. They typically went over with just swimsuit photos, and
Right.
then it truly evolved or devolved into something else.
Right.
And
But I also think that, I also think that it can be empowering if someone chooses to do this. I think it can be an empowering form of work or lifestyle or whatever it is. I know that one of the teachers in the article,
yes.
it was kind of a dire straits situation. Her husband had lost his job. They really needed money. And this was an easy way for her to kind of actually start generating income. So there is, just like prostitution, there is some level of
Right.
desperation that might force people to,
Right.
start an OnlyFans account.
Right. Right.
And that can turn into empowerment because, and even if they're not making millions of dollars, if you're able to take your family out of not being able to put food on the table to having food on the table and to be able to pay your rent and keep a roof over your head and to keep your entire family lives, intact and
Yeah.
safe, that's an empowering thing for a woman to be able to do. And I wouldn't hold that
Yeah.
against anybody.
It is, and that's what one of the teachers that she has said, and I believe she just has one child. She is married. I believe she has one small child, and then they just recently purchased this, big beautiful farm, but they probably paid, cash for it. But I mean, they went from basically being bankrupt to
Yeah.
now, I mean,
Having a stable
having
life.
more than a stable life.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then and basically removing themselves. They still live they live close by the small town in Missouri, but they basically
Mm.
relocated to, like maybe an hour away or something like
Mhm.
that. And they do, it sounds like a little idyllic life, but I don't know. There again, I mean, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
I mean, because that her child, whether I can't remember if it's a boy or a girl, but at some point, I mean, things could be found out because she was a teacher and she actually started. I thought this was very very interesting. She started not showing her face,
Mm-hmm.
and but people still
Yeah.
recognized her, and then so she was fired from her teaching position. So at some point, I mean, somebody will bring it up to her
Mm-hmm.
child. And then, I mean, but then that's, something that she has to face. But
Yeah.
for me, it's just like
The trade-off isn't worth
the
it.
trade-off isn't
So
worth
the
it
cost of
at
so
all.
that there's,
There
and
is a
I would
cost.
hope that people are weighing this when they're
Mhm.
making the choice to do this kind of work, is that,
Mhm.
repercussions will come at some point in some form or another, and how willing are you to pay a price? Like,
Mhm.
you might make $14 million
Mhm.
and then retire from,
Yeah.
OnlyFans. But at some point in your life, there is gonna be some price to be paid
Mhm.
for that
Yeah.
Mhm.
choice. So, and this is where I hope people are
Exactly.
real with themselves about it and don't just get so excited by the paychecks rolling in that it precludes them from thinking clearly about the
Yeah.
ramifications.
For sure.
Right. Right. Well, do you think that OnlyFans and online pornography, because it is so easy nowadays to, I
Mhm.
mean, everything's on your phone. I mean, like you were brought up earlier, Kelly, we used to have theaters that you would
Mhm.
actually have to, physically put on an outfit, risk being recognized,
Mhm.
and go off and do that. And then we brought it into the home with VHS tapes
Yes,
and
and the worst thing you had to do was go behind the curtain at the video
I
store.
know, right? uh, but now it's on our phone,
Mhm.
so we have complete anonymity when you are just a subscriber. So anonymity, I mean, I'm sure they're not signing up with their real name. I'm sure there's a lot of,
Sure, but I mean, everyone's gonna find out everyone
Mhm.
else's search history on your
Well,
computer.
Mm-hmm.
that's
It's not
true.
like
That's true.
it's not that anonymous when we really think about it.
But do you think, and I brought up the statistics of, Gen Zers, but do you think that it really is changing the way that people interpret healthy sexual relationships?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think the worst part about it is the idea that people think that they're having a relationship with someone that they are subscribed to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think that's the worst part of it.
Right.
I think that isolation aspect of the internet as a whole is the worst part about it.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
teaching everyone how to be alone in a way that isn't healthy, regardless if they're looking at
Mhm.
porn or they're,
Mm-hmm.
just
Right.
engaging in, gaming online. Like,
Right.
that's where I think is the biggest problem. I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily feel like, because like we talked about, porn's been around.
Mhm.
We might long for the days when, remember when
Yes.
you would come across your dad's stash of Playboy
That's right.
magazines, and that felt so like,
I
oh my
know.
gosh, it was such a,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and there's movie scenes dedicated to boys digging into their, finding and stealing their father's
Yes.
magazines. And
Mhm.
it's a cultural touch point that
Mhm.
is pretty much lost on current generation because they've never experienced
Mhm.
that kind of clandestine
Mm-hmm.
activity
Do we
of
even have
finding
like
porn.
Hustler and Playboy anymore?
I honestly don't know if they're still printed. I
Yeah,
do
I
think
don't
that they
know.
are.
Are
I do
they?
think that they are still in print,
I
but
haven't been paying attention at all, but
It's
yeah.
definitely
That
not
just
to the level that they were,
no.
though.
certainly not.
No.
Um,
No, because there again, I mean, everything's on our phone.
yeah,
I mean, you can carry your phone with you, 24/7. You don't even have to, put in the VHS tape or,
right.
or
You don't even have to
risk
rent
that
a
being
tape.
discovered
Yeah, you don't even have
by.
to. I mean, there aren't really video stores much anymore, but
No.
when there were, it was, the behind the curtain at the,
Mm-hmm.
in the back of
Mm-hmm.
the video store, and as a kid, I remember like peeking around and like looking in and seeing, what was that place all about?
I
And
know.
heaven forbid you actually saw someone that you knew in there, because then
Mhm.
it was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing in here? And
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that we, I I think the isolationism of our online culture makes porn, like adds a level of pornography, or adds a level of unhealthiness to pornography, just like it adds an unhealthiness to being social in general. But I don't think that porn itself is the problem, I guess. Is what I would fall down on.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree
Well,
with that.
I've always had, I mean, as I said, I'm very traditional when it comes to my views. And and raising 3 boys and, pornography and having brushes with it and all of that. Mac and I used to have many conversations about this because he was also like, he was a man and, understands, what young boys go through and testosterone, all those things. And I understand it, to a degree as well. However, my concern was, and I will go back to my monologue. When we're raising young boys and young girls, you want them to be happy and healthy and whole, and that means their viewpoint on sex too. Because I would never want, and I never wanted any of my children to think that sex was bad or something to be hidden or not to be enjoyed. It was made to be enjoyed, obviously. So I just always wanted my children to have a very healthy, whole look with sexual relationships. But then, as I said, between a man and a woman, in a monogamous relationship, for me, that was marriage. And I just think that things like this just really take it, and it gets just so distorted. And I just think that I think it does weigh on a healthy sexual relationship. And if we really did a deep dive on pornography and men getting addicted to it, and I'm sure women have gotten addicted to it as well, but typically it's men, and how that tends to ruin your relationship because it's not, I'm putting it in air quotes, it's not real. Porn isn't real. At the end of the day, it's not real. It's an angle. It's a setup. It's a, it's a this and that. And then same thing with OnlyFans. So that's just me. I truly do think that it is distorting sex in a way with our younger generation that hasn't been seen before. So and that concerns me. It really does. Truly, truly does. And yes, I do understand, boy, we do get down on our luck sometimes. Like the teacher that was basically, I don't think she said she was facing bankruptcy, but they were down on their luck. And I truly, my heart goes out to people like that. And isn't it really sad? I was also just thinking about this too. I'm really philosophizing a lot of things, but isn't it just sad that teaching, which is like such an important profession, and she's only making $42,000 a year?
Yeah. It's the fact that she has to resort to that anyways.
That's what that's when I'm like,
those
Steve,
are the major distortions.
You can't.
Yes.
That's where I think you can't fault someone for doing something like this when they are genuinely doing it for their family.
It's not, and it's not my place to judge. It's not, but I do have my values, and I do see what happens when things get distorted. And money does fix certain things, but it doesn't, fix everything. Money will put food on your table, which is a huge relief. It will buy you cars, it will buy you homes, it pays your electric bill. It's a very important thing to have. However, I do think that when you go down these roads, I think it just opens up Pandora's box. And now we're seeing that with that Lily Phillips. We'll touch on that just one more time. Who wants to sleep with 1,000 men in 24 hours? I'm like, dear God.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's next? Because
that sounds like my worst nightmare.
Right?
Honestly,
that's like actually the last thing that I would ever.
I can't even. I just. Can't even
listen.
imagine.
I'm actually
more
not
power
good.
to her, but
I'm not good at math necessarily. But have they even worked out? Like
they have, and
Have they?
yeah,
So
they've worked.
It's like 2 seconds per. Like I don't even understand. Like logistically,
I don't know how many seconds, but they've worked it out that it's possible.
Oh my gosh!
I'll leave the math of it up to them.
Well, anyway, yeah, it seems that we just go down a very dark and slippery road. Once this, as I said, Pandora's box gets open, but
there is a slippery slope.
It is.
Yeah,
there is, and it's. and the amounts of money that these women are making is quite astonishing. They're all like millionaires. So
They are.
Yeah,
Kind of
it's
crazy.
kind of crazy. So is there anything else we want to touch on with OnlyFans? I mean, is it, it's a, boy, is it,
Kind of want to go take a shower now, though.
well, I'm telling you, you can, I mean, as we talked about, you can go down all these rabbit holes. There's a lot of information out there about it. And I will say this, I will wrap it up with this. Most of it has not been positive.
Yeah. I mean,
Most of it
that's
has not been positive, and there are so many young women now getting out of OnlyFans and regretting that they ever got in.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. Well, we will wrap this segment up. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back with New and Noteworthy. And we're back with New and Noteworthy, where Kelly, Chelsea, and I share something that has come across our desk this week. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a product. It could be new, it could be noteworthy, it could be both. It's just really girlfriends just sharing some tidbits and information. So, so Kelly, I'll kick it off. What do you have this week?
okay. I have a TV show.
Ooh,
Surprise, surprise.
I know.
Okay, this is a Netflix show, actually. It's called Black Doves.
I've
It's a
seen that
spy
one.
show.
Oh, you
I've
have?
seen-
Have
I-
you watched it?
No, I haven't watched it, but
Oh.
I've been wanting to, so I'm interested to hear.
Yeah,
it.
it's super, super good.
Okay.
Keira Knightly is the main character, along with Ben Wishaw, who is, I really love him. He's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to convey so much feeling just through a facial gesture is phenomenal. Like, he's just such a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has Sarah Lancashire, who we would remember from Julia. She plays Julia Child in the HBO
Oh.
series Julia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's in that.
So she's the leader of the Black Doves.
Oh,
So
I
it's
loved her in
this
Julia.
is a fantastic spy show. Like, I'm look it's already renewed for season 2, I believe, so I'm looking forward to where they
Mhm.
take it, but
Mhm.
it's just so much fun, and British spy shows are really fun.
Mhm.
Because I so love
Better.
kind of, although I will say the US spy shows are giving them a run for their money, because we seem to have this, like, is it dearth? Is that the right word for a glut? Oh, it's a glut? A lot. We have a lot of spy shows on right now.
I know.
So
It's interesting because things are always very cyclical.
Yes.
So I'm curious as to why.
I was
Uh-huh.
I actually brought this up with Alex last night. Like, why do you think it is that all of a sudden we have so many spy shows? But yeah, this is a great one. So it like Lioness, like, it kind of
Mhm.
focuses on these female operatives, and they don't work for MI5, but they work for a separate organization that basically gets information and sells it to the highest bidder. So they're not necessarily working for the government.
Uh-huh.
They're
Mhm.
not necessarily traitorous either.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
it's a really good show. And Keira Knightley, it's great to see her again. I feel like she
Uh-huh.
I haven't really seen her in anything in a long time,
Yeah.
and she's like 41, 42 years old. She looks
Mhm.
beautiful, like,
Mhm.
and natural. Like, she's just
Mhm.
it's great.
That's
So yeah,
great.
it's a good
Okay.
show.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
Okay, Chelsea, what do you have this week?
I have a pair of pants that I have come to
Pants.
that I've come to love because they're really one of like 3 that fit me right now. But I just ordered a second pair, and they're by Spanx. They're the brushed, I think they're called brushed wide leg pants.
Mhm.
But they've got like, they don't have like a tie on the waist, which I like. It's just like
Mhm.
stretchy,
Mhm.
but then they kind of look like they are, I guess sweatpants, if you want to say, but they're wide legged. And then they also have, you know, the, what's the line down the front that I'm
Like a pinstripe,
like
or
a pin,
tuck.
like a pin tuck
Yeah.
line down the front. So, you know, you could maybe, they're like a dressier version of like maybe like a travel wear pant
Okay.
or just a comfortable pant. But I just ordered another pair in a different color and I really like them.
I love Spanx. Actually,
Yeah.
so Spanx well, the creator of Spanx, Sarah Blakey, I think is her name, or it's Susan Blakey, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Sarah or Susan,
It's
but anyway,
Sarah, I think.
I think it's Sarah too. I have a friend that's in the influencing world, and she's Susan, so that's why she's
yeah, it's
Blakey.
Sarah.
So,
Oh,
you know,
that's
so
funny.
sometimes I'm like, oh, I get frozen there. So, but anyway, she has a new shoe line.
Oh wow.
So it's sneakers and stilettos together.
Oh, wow.
So, and she had been like out there designing them. She almost gave up.
Is she selling it through Spanx, or has she
No,
come up with a new?
It's a whole new.
Oh, wow.
I want to say it's like Sneakly.
Sneakly.
Because there's stilettos with sneakers, or maybe sneakies. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway.
I will say normally with Spanx, I find they are. I mean, because it is Spanx, so like the whole point of it's to suck you in. So, you know, that's probably not something that I'm going to be wearing right now. But these pants are very comfortable. I did have to size up though, but I think if you were not pregnant, you would just wear your normal size.
Yes.
So they're true to size.
True to size.
Yeah.
Maybe a little long. So, you know, but anyways.
I like Spanx and their Air Essentials especially. I love that for travel.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, well, I have a product this week. So I just recently partnered with itCosmetics again, and I'm a big fan of itCosmetics. They're under the L'Oreal umbrella, and I just think they have some really great products. But I particularly like their CC cream, and it comes in new shades. So so I go through cycles.
I like their CC cream too.
I'm using and what I'm not using, and then so now I'm back like, oh my gosh, I have to be like wearing this like all the time.
And it's SPF in it, right? Which is kind of nice.
SPF 50, which is great. It's very hydrating. It's very covers up a lot of your imperfections. Like I don't have blemishes anymore, but I have age spots, so it really comes along and does a great job with coverage. So so I just wanted to give a shout out for them as well. But I also love their brushes. So they have great makeup brushes too at Cosmetics. Love their makeup brushes. So they have a very specific brush that you use with the CC foundation. So, so I just thought I would.
You know, my dermatologist calls them not age spots, but
what are they?
Wisdom spots.
Oh, wisdom spots. Okay, well,
cover up your wisdom spot.
Thank you. I've got a lot of wisdom then. So I have a few of them. Okay, ladies. Well, that wraps it up with another episode of Message from Mom, where we're busting the myth that mothers-in-law don't get along with their daughters-in-law.
She got it right.
I'm back. Oh my God.
That's what I was like. You didn't.
I want
busting,
this.
What was it? She didn't say
busting the myth.
She said